Hello and welcome. I'm Mark Paulette, Global Product Line Manager for Exteriors at Magna. We're excited to share this technology presentation with you, but before we get started, we got a couple of housekeeping notes we want to share with you. We've left time at the end of this presentation for Q&A, and I wanted to introduce Brian Kroll, our Director of Innovation at Magna. Brian will be monitoring the Q&A, and he'll be helping answer the questions after this presentation. So let's get started. I'd like to share with you a quick overview of who we are at Magna. Our 2019 sales totaled over $39 billion, and we're ranked number 3 in the global market for automotive suppliers. We have 157,000 hardworking employees that are working in 27 different countries around the globe. And we have 344 global manufacturing sites where Magna is well positioned to work with all new entrants and our traditional OEM partners. Magna truly is a world-class manufacturer with deep systems knowledge and broad product experience across the entire vehicle. We have product capability in body and chassis systems, exteriors, roof systems, powertrain, electronics, mechatronics, mirrors, lighting, and seating. And with our complete vehicle manufacturing capability, Magna truly is a one-stop shop to collaborate with your teams and bring your future mobility needs to reality. So that brings us to today's technology in the Magna Meso Panel. So what is a Meso Panel? So Meso, meaning middle, truly is the midpoint in our technology roadmap. The Meso Panel enables lighting, and it also shows where we've come from and where we're going for this truly next generation product line. To begin, I want you to think of the Meso Panel as a first-to-market large format lens. Like we said, that integrates lighting technologies, sensors, and cameras, and enables future autonomous driving without sacrificing aesthetics. So what's driving this vision? Well, the face of the vehicle are changing today, with new entrants in EV vehicles and autonomous driving coming to the market. And we wanted to provide a value-added solution that meets these future needs. So we started working on the future front-end panel concepts with real technology targets. Another way to maybe look at this is that this is a technology or a product roadmap that really highlights where we've been and where we're going in terms of this new product opportunity. The first target we're going to talk about is the Magna radar cover, and it's available today in the market. It enables class-leading radar transmission and performance and design quality. The second target, which debuted at last year's CES show, is Luma Grill with Flexform. And today we're introducing the Magna Meso Panel. Each one of these technologies represents a scale growing bigger and larger to incorporate new vision into these integration panels. Maybe I can give you an idea because we built this demonstrator that you see behind me. We built this not only to show what it looks like, but how it works and what it feels like to see this panel at scale. Maybe another way to kind of look at this and a better reference would be, think about it from this perspective. It takes 4 radar covers to equal 1 Luma grill, and it takes 4 Luma grills to equal 1 Magna Meso panel. That's a large panel. And we're already working on the next large seamless integration panel. This is an even bigger panel that integrates even more features. We call this the Magna Vision panel. I'm going to talk more in depth of each one of these technologies as we go further and further into this presentation. Again, our first technology that we were able to offer was the Magna radar cover. And it's a very important technology because it helps enable obstacle detection. This development has given us technology know-how to optimize radar signal transmission through a multi-layered plastic part. And we achieve these performance benefits by our patented in-mold technology. Essentially, we get a finished part out of the mold. It allows also for freedom of design using our in-mold film process. And additionally, our radar cover technologies offer integrated heating and de-icing options for maintaining signal performance through inclement weather, including snow and ice conditions. So we talked a little bit about Luma Grill, but Luma Grill was really our first lit grill proof of concept that debuted last year, as we mentioned at CES. It increased our part size capability. This part is around 450 millimeters wide by 150 millimeters tall. and it uses our innovative Flexform lighting technology. It offers illuminated brand distinction in a super thin package. And if you want to know more about Luma Grill, please check out some of the online videos we posted from last year's show. So, like our approach and our development with radar covers and Luma Grill, our advanced materials and thoughtful design processes really allow us to create the seamless lit grill product. Some of the key benefits with Luma Grill were super thin panel technology. I mean thin, less than a half inch, roughly 12 millimeters. Even lit illumination across the entire lit zones, hidden until lit lighting features with lighting effects using translucent inks and masking layers. This is truly a lightweight package as well, and it's much lighter than traditional lit grill offerings. Some of the applications would include front grill customization with potential welcome sequence lighting effects and vehicle interior or exterior trim and accent lighting opportunities. So here we are back again to the Magna MEZZO panel, and maybe now it gives you a better understanding of why we call it the midpoint in our panel technology. Keep in mind our goal with MEZZO panel was to provide our OEM partners with brand distinction and advanced functionality designed in a beautiful way. So we're going to take a little bit of a closer look into the benefits for the full Magna MEZZO panel. As you see the car coming down the road, you'll see that the radar transmission is coming through the MEZZO panel. And as the car safely passes the deer, you can understand how this panel improves safety and communication to the outside world. In the lower corner, you can also see that we've integrated lighting technologies into this panel to offer illuminated brand distinction. You know, whether it's an electric vehicle or an internal combustion engine, our goals are really common here. It's to provide a brand distinction and thoughtful sensor integration panel for the future products needed. As more EVs enter the market, their thermal management needs are quite unique. They draw their cooling requirements from below the fascia. This offers us an opportunity to use a big closed panel like we have here with Magna MEZZO panel, allowing us to integrate the sensors and offer brand distinction lighting opportunities as well. So we're going to zoom in on the MEZZO panel a little bit more, and we're going to talk about some of the advantages. It truly is a first to market large format molded film product. You know, our prototype here is roughly 1 meter wide by a half a meter tall. It's quite big if you think about it from that perspective. And the decoration technologies that we offer include paints and inks, chrome effects, and film effects for other design differentiation. The panel also includes hidden until lit lighting features and animation lighting, and we're going to talk about that a bit more in the next few slides. But before we leave this slide, I wanted to point out that Covestro has been a technology partner supporting us on this in-mold film panel development. Not only did they provide us with some material development, but also processing. And as you can see here, we've actually built a prototype tool that helps us develop this technology even further. So we talk about integration of lighting in the MEZZO panel. And by using various decoration technologies, we can create brand distinction and a unique user experience with light. We can achieve this light transmission through many of our decorative layers, you know, by applying advanced materials and our know-how from our previous technology demonstrators. You know, one of the most efficient packages we've looked at recently is the Flexform technology. And I want to spend just a moment telling you a little bit more about the benefits on the next slide. So Flexform truly is an ultra-thin technology. It can also be integrated into lighting applications to make them brighter, lighter, and even more energy efficient. We continue to look for ways to integrate this lighting into our exteriors, and it truly is a game-changing technology. Now, bringing everything together, this video highlights a number of the technology offerings that we talked about with Magna MEZZO panel. And during this video, I may remind you of a few of the key points. The materials and designs build on our current patented radar cover knowledge and enable panel technologies that optimize signal transmission and reception for the packaged radar systems that you see behind it. It's also a very thin panel. Also, by combining some of the innovative materials and process technologies, we deliver a large format panel, remember, like 16 radar covers big, that can improve both safety and communication to the outside world. Also, through the integration of additional lighting technologies, we can provide brand distinction and illumination opportunities with animated lighting sequencing and hidden until lit lighting features. Remember, our end goal was to provide our OEM partners a unique Magna MEZZO panel that includes a number of advanced technologies, but all done in a beautiful way. As I mentioned earlier, we're not standing still. We're very proud of the MEZZO panel technology developments that we've just discussed. However, we're already looking at our next technology target. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but it's the Magna Vision Panel concept, which will debut next year. I'll give you a sneak peek into what this technology represents. The Magna Vision Panel really pushes our capabilities and know-how to produce an even larger panel, maybe even consider it a module that's fully integrated with all the functionality and decorative elements that integrate a seamless system. This Vision Panel would include all of the front-end technologies that are required for today's vehicles. Think about it, from fender to fender and from hood to ground, and include the new features that are required for future mobility. And as I close this presentation, I wanted to thank you for your attention, and our Magna team looks forward to working with you on your future MEZZO or Vision Panel concepts. Thank you. And I think we're going to open it up to Q&A now. Brian?
All right. Thank you very much, Mark, for the wonderful overview of the Magna MEZZO panel. Obviously showing our journey, where we've been in terms of technology development and where we're going in the future. So as Mark mentioned, we'll go ahead and open it to questions. We've got some online currently that we'll go ahead and ask. I'll field some, and I'll also throw some over to Mark. So I encourage those online to keep the questions coming, and we will answer whatever we can here online today. First question, Mark, I'm going to go ahead and throw over to you. The question is, in terms of customization of the MEZZO panel for brand distinction, can the panel be designed in different physical geometric patterns for different OEMs? Or the question poses not just like the diamond-shaped pattern shown on the panel as we see it. So what other geometries do we believe can be achieved?
Brian, it's a great question. It's truly customizable. If you take a look at the Magna MEZZO panel, truly using the in-mold film processing and technologies that we've developed, certainly you could use really almost any shape possible. And the other thing that we would like to point out is the decoration technologies include chrome effects, printed ink effects, and we can also mold three-dimensional effects into this panel as well. So Brian, I think that answers the question. I think there's a lot of opportunities for differentiation with this panel.
Okay, very good. Another question that came up, and I'll go ahead and field this question, is does the Magna MEZZO panel work with LiDAR or cameras? How would the laser get through, similar to question with the camera? Obviously, there's limitations in terms of camera as far as broadcasting through a surface. So in many cases, you're looking at openings. As far as LiDAR goes, Magna Exteriors is doing extensive work and development with university to understand the effects of LiDAR through a panel in front of the sensor itself. So those are ongoing developments, something that we are certainly looking into and looking to drive solutions towards as we move into the future.
Absolutely.
Okay. Mark, another question here I'll throw over to you. With the Vision panel coming next year, what is the benefit of an OEM in adding a MEZZO panel now?
Well, obviously, it's a step progression. I mean, if you think of it in terms of where we've been, we talked about the progression of larger and larger panels. I think, with the early advent of EVs, you can probably assume that this panel would integrate most of the features that we would need. But as more EVs and AVs come to market, we're going to need to integrate additional features, including communication lighting and the functionality for what we'll call functional lighting and additional sensors. So absolutely, we believe it's a stepped progression in this technology. And no doubt we'll be looking at this mid panel, if you will, the Magna Meso panel first.
Excellent. Thank you, Mark. There was a quick question just asking where we're filming from, and we are filming at our corporate headquarters in Troy, Michigan, in our innovation room. A couple questions regarding lighting, Mark. Really, two questions. One asking about the power level and if it's suitable for DRL, and then also about headlight power. I think that's a bit more related to our vision panel as far as the next step, but any comments there?
We've talked a little bit about what functional lighting aspects can be integrated into these panels. And, I certainly wouldn't eliminate the possibility. Certainly for DRL, it could be supplemental. And as you mentioned, I think once we step that progression into the vision panel and we include the functioning headlamps or some of the other features, that question probably would go into that next progression as well.
Thank you, Mark. Another question here. Is the external shape and internal texture able to be modified to fit any brand design need?
It's a great question. It really is. And the short answer is yes, we believe so. I mean, it's a multi-layered technology. We already talked about that. We're using a film insert molding. And, typically these panels are polycarbonate. So we do have some molding technology that will allow us to get three-dimensional shape. But certainly, as you know, Brian, we have to be careful about where we have the radar transmission areas. Those need to be fairly uniform. So, if we take into consideration where the sensors are, we can absolutely integrate shape into these panels. Excellent.
Next question. Many areas have laws concerning lighting on a car so that they will not be confused with law enforcement cars, etc. Has it been taken, into consideration? I'll answer that. We are looking always at the specifications and regulations in terms of forward lighting on a vehicle, and we take that into account when we're going to be working with our OEM partners in terms of what the rules, regulations of the road, and legality of that in the future. Next question, Mark. Would this only fit on an SUV type vehicle, or can it be scaled down for smaller vehicles?
Absolutely, it can be scaled down. I mean, we're showing a large format panel, but it can certainly be scaled down. And in fact, the Luma grill might be a good example. It's 400 millimeters or 450 millimeters wide by 150 millimeters. So it doesn't have to be a large format panel, but I think what we would really like to offer is the integration and the functionality of what you see in the Magna Meso panel.
Thank you, Mark. Next one here, a bit in terms of overall performance. What types of durability studies, as far as scratch, impact, heat aging, UV, etc., have been conducted, and what were the results? And I think what we can talk to there, Mark, is really how do we protect the Magna Meso panel into the future from those different environmental effects?
Yeah, another good question. So, earlier in the presentation, we talked about drawing from some of the technology benefits from the earlier technologies, mainly Magna radar cover. So if you think in terms of the radar cover, we already have a polycarbonate outer lens that's hard coated. And to Brian's point, we would likely be looking at hard coating this product as well. And again, if you think about this just in a larger format lens, headlamps today are already polycarbonate with hard coat, and they pass all the functional requirements for exterior applications. So Brian, I think we've already looked at that, and certainly, application dependent. I think we feel pretty confident that we're good at where we're at today.
I would agree, Mark. Quick question: is Magna Meso panel offered in different colors, and how stable would the color be of those different offerings?
That's a great point too. I mean, again, the film insert allows us to add color, both from an inking perspective. There's opportunities for paint, and then there's also opportunities for tinted substrates. And I think the question really comes back to UV exposure. And the hard coats that we apply on the front of these panels have the UV inhibitors in them. So I think it's it's beneficial to say that we believe we're already protected and color won't be an issue.
Excellent. Next question. I'd like to ask if the lighting can also be RGB, or if it is also only possible to have white lighting. In the case of RGB, can it use to be displayed a functional message or even an alert?
Brand, sorry, I didn't know if you were going to take that one. I would say absolutely, but keep in mind, Brian mentioned earlier that the color of the light right now is pretty set. We right now we're defined in really a white spectrum. We can change that color, but as the EVs and AVs become more prevalent in the market, I know we're already looking at legislation to see communication lighting and what those colors may represent. So absolutely, RGBs can be integrated. We just need to make sure that they're legal for the region in which we put them in.
Excellent. Thanks, Mark. So I'll take this one. We mentioned modularity or it being a module within the overall presentation. Can you please elaborate on that? So I think what we look at there, Mark mentioned that the Magna MEZZO panel is a forward lens. When we look at the packaging and the components that are behind that lens, we can look at that being an overall module for the front end of the vehicle for the future of integration. That could include additional structure, the mounting of the different sensor applications, the lighting, and so on. So you can see as the content increases on the panel, Magna Exteriors is well positioned to include all that in the design and packaging to meet any of our OEM or new customer needs. Okay, Mark, next question here. What is the technology readiness of the Magna MEZZO panel in general?
These are really good questions, Brian. If you think about the step progression of the technology targets that we talked about, the MEZZO panel really incorporates all of those. So I would say on the surface, it's really application ready. And maybe in an area where we're not quite there, I would say it's certainly going to be ready in real term within the next few months, or maybe at the outset a year.
Excellent. Next question here was, how does Magna MEZZO panel enable future styling and design? And I'll field that one, Mark. As you see, there's some very intricate design on the MEZZO panel as it is today. That's using the in-mold film decoration. So it's a wide possibility of different design effects and different geometries within the panel itself. We're also investigating additional decorative technologies as we move forward. But these all enable different colors, different textures, effects, things like chrome, even body color paint, and any desire from the OEM as we move forward. So really the possibilities are endless in terms of enabling future styling and design. Okay, Mark, next question. What type of materials make up the Magna MEZZO panel?
We talked about it. Thanks, Brian. We talked about it a little bit. Typically, the outer panel is polycarbonate, but it can be multi-layered as well. It really depends on what we're trying to integrate to the backside of this panel. But certainly, the in-mold film technology, as Brian mentioned, allows us to add additional decoration technology. So let's just say from the beginning, the outer surface polycarbonate. With film insert molding, and then certainly depending upon what other features we have to integrate, there could be additional thermoplastics that we integrate to the backside of this panel.
Excellent. There's a question here. It says, I love the idea of the Magna MEZZO panel. Thank you for the presentation. I agree. Thank you, Mark. When can we expect to see this in production? And I'll answer that question. We're ready to work with our OEM partners today on future applications for the Magna MEZZO panel. We have a number of different developments at different stages of development for different front-end panels in the works today. So we look to build on this as we move into the future and take the complexity further and increase the overall design and capability of the front end of the vehicle moving forward. Okay. Next question. What influence does sensor type and positioning have on the Magna MEZZO panel? I'll answer that, Mark. So as we mentioned, we're looking at a wide range of sensors to be compatible and integrated in the front end of the vehicle. From radar, which we focused on quite a bit in terms of our radar cover offerings and being scaled up and included in the Magna MEZZO panel. but also looking at incorporating sensors like ultrasonics, cameras as discussed, LiDAR into the future. As far as positioning goes, it's up to the OEM brand, the OEM strategy in terms of the positioning of those sensors within the front end of the vehicle. And we'll work together with the OEM here at Magna to make sure that we understand the packaging, the aiming, the positional requirements, and the overall integration for those. And in addition to that, I think another important thing when we talk about the overall sensors is cleanliness. We're looking at a wide range of different solutions as far as coatings for the future, but today we're also, as Mark mentioned in the presentation, integrating heating elements within to keep those sensors clean, to make sure that the safety and the durability of the panel is there in all environmental applications.
Very good.
All right, just looking down here. Thank you for all the questions. It's been great seeing them all come in here. It says, thank you for the presentation. Really interesting. Thank you. Can you talk about the embedding of radars? Are you assuming that you can embed existing radar internals? So when I read into this question, it's how are we working today with radar and how are we integrating it? Mark, maybe you could touch a little bit on how our radar cover technology is adapting to that, and then how that fits into the MEZZO panel.
Sure. Yeah, we're not actually integrating the actual radar unit onto the back of the panel. The panel is actually a lens, like it is for our Magna radar cover, as Brian mentioned. Essentially, we have a thermoplastic solution for the Magna radar cover that has been optimized for signal transmission. And the same thing would go for the Magna MEZZO panel. In the radar area, the panel is really a lens. So in that specific space, we have to make sure we have the right thickness that allows for the optimal signal transmission that continues to offer the opportunity to have that radar see even further down the road, especially when we talk about the advent of additional AV functionality into these panels. So Brian, I hope that answered the question. We're not adding the radar unit to the panel. The panel's the lens for the radar unit.
Yeah, no, thanks, Mark. And I'd like to maybe ask my own follow-up question to you on that one. What makes the radar cover technology, and then subsequently what we're putting into the Magna MEZZO panel, perform so well in terms of transmission?
It's a really good question. So, radar transmission attenuation really requires that we go through a solid material. And our technology using the in-mold film technology allows for us to do that. We get a constant uniform thickness of material that allows for that signal to transmit through. If we had to, I guess, join this panel where we glued it and there was gaps between them, we'd lose that transmission performance. But I believe that's really one of the true benefits. It's really that in-molding process that allows for that good signal transmission.
Thanks, Mark. Question here, I would say in terms of the lighting, I'll ask in that context. The question was, it says great product. Thanks once again. What kind of in-vehicle network would we be looking at working with as far as the lighting? Is that a CAN, LIN? What are we seeing as far as requests, and how would that work?
Well, we can certainly work through a CAN signal, and we can also use the benefit of a LIN signal as well. We've talked about control capabilities, and they can be fired off of a welcome sequence in the vehicle from an LDM, if you will, or some other controller. The fact is, it's fairly flexible in terms of how we would execute this lighting sequence. Hopefully that answered that question, Brian.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. Another question here. I'll take this one. The question is, it's a substitute for bumpers. Is there a countermeasure against crash safety standards? And what I would say here is not really a substitute for bumpers. I think we're still beholden to any of the frontal crash requirements, and we'll work with our OEM partners to understand the overall modeling, the behavior, the structure behind that, and how that behaves overall, as well as the protection of the elements that will be in the front, that will be included in as far as the sensors, the lighting, to mitigate any replacement in the case of a low-speed frontal crash.
Hey, thanks, Brian. I just got word that we're at our time limit. I wanted to thank everybody for the opportunity to present this Magna MEZZO panel technology. Thanks again.
Thank you very much, Mark. Thanks, everyone.